Today I want to talk about Steve Sarkisian, Quinn Ewers, and Caleb Burton, Texas recruiting, Ohio State recruiting, and what we're looking at here, just getting a lay of the land. All that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today, I want to talk about Quinn Ewers and Gunnar Stockton and Amani Winfield, but let's just start with the basics here. Steve Sarkisian was introduced as the new head coach at Texas officially on Tuesday and said a number of things, not the least of which is, I came here to win championships. And I believe now is the time to go big game hunting and to try to land, well, the biggest recruit in this cycle, and quite literally one of the biggest recruits in college football rankings history, which dates back to like 1998, in Quinn Ewers. There have been, four, maybe five 1.000 evaluated prospects in the rankings era. Jadeveon Clowney, Rashawn Gary, Ernie Sims, Robert Kimdichie. Those are the guys, right? Vince Young. So Texas has had one, and when they had one, they won a national championship. Quinn Ewers was committed to Texas for a hot second when Tom Herman was the head coach. As things got to be bad for Texas and for Tom Herman, he decided to reopen his recruitment. And in reopening it, decided to commit to Ohio State. Number one player in the country, number one player in, he's the highest rated player since Rashawn Gary. My God. Going to Ohio State. That quarterback depth chart is already stupid. With CJ Stroud, Jack Miller, and Kyle McCord. They're going to be great. Now, Gunnar Stockton was committed to South Carolina, comes out of Tiger, Georgia, and also is a five-star quarterback. He's the kind of guy that Ryan Day was actually recruiting until Quinn Ewers decided to commit to Ohio State. So if you're Steve Sarkisian, one of the ways in which you prove you are about your recruiting is by landing one of those top quarterbacks, because you need a quarterback in the worst way. And everybody knows it, but it feels like with Ewers, he can swing that pendulum either way. And knowing that he committed to Texas first feels like he wants an excuse to entertain Texas. I know that's not what Ohio State fans want to hear. And I know that Quinn Ewers was given Kendrick Blackshear the OH after a playoff game featuring his South Lake Carroll team versus Duncanville. It's where Kendrick Blackshear, who looks like a 35-year-old dude, plays ball. See? And I edited that out. But when we look at Quinn Ewers, we're also looking at Caleb Burton, five-star wide receiver committed to Ohio State, number 14 player in the 247 Sports Composite. Amani Winfield decides to pull the trigger on Texas the same day Steve Sarkisian gets the job. Now, the Ohio State recruiting class is already plenty good and filling up very quickly. Texas has two guys in the boat. Steve Sarkisian is still filling out his staff. Ryan Day just played in a national championship game, and he's going to have a need for another five-star quarterback sooner rather than later. You're going to play for another national championship, probably in the playoff in 2022 if you're Ohio State. We'll see what happens with Texas. But if Sarkisian can swing Burton, Ewers, or Stockton, we're going to continue to talk about Texas and the talent that they've had. But again, what Sarkisian is going to have to do at Texas is two things. One is develop the guys that are there, and two is beat Oklahoma. If he develops the guys that are there and they get drafted highly, you're going to get more. You're going to get better. You're going to get those sorts of classes that Alabama, Ohio State, and Georgia have been putting together consistently, because we all know that Texas has been recruiting inside the top 10 up until recently very well, right? I mean, that 2019 class is like number 5 in the country. But they haven't beaten Oklahoma except the one time, and in the Lincoln Riley era. And they haven't had really good luck in the NFL draft. All of that needs to change. And he's got Jake Smith. He's got Bijan Robinson. He's got Jordan Whittington. He's got Casey Thompson. He's got dudes on offense. I expect him to hold on to the play card, and we'll see how that goes. But I want to see what Steve Sarkisian's staff and he look like on the recruiting trail for Texas. I think Armani Winfield is a good start. Dude coming out of Louisville, 4-star wide receiver. Now go get a 5-star quarterback. Now go get a guy that the fan base wants to pin its hopes and dreams on. Because that's what you're dealing with, right? And if you can swing a dude back, like Quinn Ewers, for instance, you're going to swing one of the highest rated players in composite history, in rankings history, and he's going to be a hometown kid. And you get to build your legacy around really the kind of prospect that Tom Herman was expecting Sam Ehlinger to be, right? You get to build around what Kevin Sumlin had in Johnny Manziel and quite literally had in Kyler Murray. Like, that dude had 2 Heisman on the depth chart. And yet, this is why we're still talking about Texas, because the hope is that they can get there. For Texas fans, while Oklahoma continues to win conference championships and consistently be in the playoff, like I cheekily put out a poll on Twitter asking which of these 4 teams will win a national title before the others. I listed USC, Nebraska, Oklahoma, and I forget the other team. I would have to go look at the other team to see what it is. But it was roundly like, yo, none of these teams have even been in the conversation, RJ. Like, it's been Oklahoma in the playoff. And it was the one time in which I saw people actually acknowledge that Oklahoma is good, as opposed to Oklahoma gets to the playoff to get beat. No, that's not really true. Right? Oh, Texas. That was the other team. That was the 4th team. It was SC, Nebraska, Texas, and Oklahoma. But that's where Oklahoma has been. That's where Texas is trying to be. And for Texas to get there, they're going to have to recruit the hell out of the state and probably swing a couple of guys back into their coffers that would be going elsewhere. Like Ohio State has made a living going into Texas. J.K. Dobbins, Gary Wilson, off the top of my head, go along with Jeff Okudah. They'll continue to do that because they can recruit nationally. But at the University of Texas, they think highly of themselves and that they should be getting their own guys. And knowing that you got 5 Power 5 teams in the state of Texas, plus a number of Group of 5 teams, plus FCS, and yet you still are able to field all those teams and be successful, tells you what kind of talent is at his fingertips if Steve Sarkisian can turn this momentum that he got from winning a national championship with Alabama into doing great things at Texas. But it all remains to be seen. As it stands right now, good luck to Steve Sarkisian because Quinn Ewers and Caleb Burton are committed to Ohio State. We'll see how long that lasts. Deuces.